Welcome to the brand new Meet the Builds on ECS Magazine. We're going to start this off with an interview with Jeff Gaudette with his 1985 Nissan 720. Did I say your name wrong?
It's okay. I've been called worse.
So I want to start off by you explaining how you came about this beautiful ride that's sitting behind you guys.
Cool, man. Yeah. How I got this particular truck, or how I got into this whole mini trucking thing.
Well, either or.
I guess we'll start at the beginning then. So, probably, 15, 16 years old, mini trucking magazine, and bought my first vehicle was a Mazda V series, and I borrowed $3,200 from my grandmother to buy it, and thought it would be a good idea that day to take it in my buddy's garage and cut the roof off. It's my only car, so it made perfect sense. So we did that, and then kind of, we'll probably dig a little bit more into that afterwards, and it's sort of snowballed from there. But as time went on, I got I had two boys. One now is 25, one 16. But when my oldest son was born, got rid of the minis and dug into my business pretty heavily. And fast forward, I was hoping that my oldest son, when he became of age, would be into mini trucking. And we went out to look at one not too far from where I live when he turned 16 or 17. And he's like, yeah, that thing's pretty cool, but I don't think I would want to ever be seen in it. So I got the picture that he really didn't like him as much as I did. Fast forward to today, my son's now about to get his license, and he's obsessed with these things like I am. So just a couple of years ago, when he started digging through some old photo albums, I said, hey, look, if you really like these, we can pick one up. And we picked one up locally and started working with it, and changed up the paint job a little, got out in it, and he really did like it. So I made a decision that I was going to go start hunting down the trucks that I liked when I was a kid, because I make more than minimum wage now. So went out and found Railit, which we'll probably cover in a different video, and put it up on social media and started to kind of reconnect with people who are into mini trucking, which was pretty cool. And we'll talk about how Chris and I met. We live about 7.5 minutes away from each other, I think. And he's been into lowriders, minis, hydraulics, air ride his whole life, and we had not yet met. So due to Railit, Chris and I were able to connect, which is really cool. We'll talk a bit about that. Fast forward, I was on the Our Lifestyle podcast with Jason Ballard talking about Railit, and he was talking about Josh Ellis, who at the time down in North Carolina owned this particular truck, the Olympic Hills. And I think Josh and I were friends on Instagram, and he and I had connected, and I said, listen, if you ever sell that, I probably said that 30 times to different people, but if you ever sell that truck, let me be your first call. And he said, yeah, get in line. So I told Jay Ballard on Our Lifestyle podcast I was not going to become the next Fester, just constantly hunting down mini trucks. But I lied. And as soon as Josh got in touch with me to tell me that this was available, I did everything I could to get my hands on it as quickly as possible. So that's the abbreviated Cliff Notes version.
All right. Was there a reason in particular that you decided that you wanted that particular truck that's behind you?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So it's funny because this had never really been a feature truck at the time. It had been shown in like Trucking Magazine, mini trucking. You'd see it off in the distance. It was in some ads. It was in an ad for Tailgate Magazine, and I actually had that ad on my wall when I was in high school with this on it. And so when I saw that Josh Ellis had it and had actually brought it, and kind of brought it up to, I guess, current day standards with new interior and so forth, I couldn't believe it. So when it became available, I had to have it. To me, it's one of the most iconic minis in my opinion. So for me to be able to pick it up and put a little bit of my love into it, and have Chris help me out with it, and you know, and just to be able to bring it out to some local shows and obviously get out to some national shows with it here pretty soon has been pretty awesome.
Okay. Now, obviously, this ain't your first go around with mini trucks, obviously. So you kind of grew up and with the passion and the love for it. Do you foresee in the future like your kids maybe getting involved with something like this? Are they involved with something like this?
Yeah, he's into tuners and drifting and all that nonsense, but he has the mini truck bug for sure. So there might be something coming up that he's going to be very involved in. So I want him to have his tuner little race car thing he wants to have, but I want my son to be able to drive to school and work in a bag truck. So we'll probably be making that happen for sure.
Very much has the bug.
He does have the bug. Yeah.
We go to car shows and you can see it in him that he's super excited and walks around and talks to people and asks them the questions and kind of wanders off. He's excited. Yeah.
Well, that's always good to hear. I love hearing the family stays involved. To keep the tradition going around. Now, we obviously know that you didn't completely build that truck. You had I've heard that you fixed some things, made some things better, cleaned it up, and I think that's where Chris comes involved.
Yeah, so I guess I'll explain and I'll let Chris tell you too. So I didn't build one thing on this truck, just so we're clear with everybody.
Okay.
Cal Concepts built, and probably 26, 27 years ago at this point. K-Daddy, Calgan, Dion obviously had his hand on it from Cal Concepts, and then you've got Air Syndicate, Craig Frazier did all the airbrush work on it. This truck to me is is a work of art. So when that concept comes up, which you just said, hey, you didn't necessarily build it. No, I'm not a builder. I tend to be more of the guy that I know what looks good, I know what I like, but I have really cool friends that are amazing fabricators. So some of the updates, I guess we'll give away a little bit here on the show for Reggie's benefit and for everybody who's listening. Chris is actually going to be making a custom billet Phantom grill for the front end of this truck, one-off. For whatever reason, I do not like 720 headlights. This truck has needed that grill since it was built, just hasn't had it yet. And I guess I can let Chris tell you what that's all about.
Yeah, so we had kind of come up with the idea about maybe a year or so ago, right?
Yeah.
And both agreed that the truck could really use a Phantom grill, just because the headlights are pretty square, but wanted to hold to the style and the time period of the truck, which back in the mid to late 90s, billet was super popular, and that slatted billet grill you saw pretty often. So through Jeff and I talking, decided that let's upgrade the truck a little bit, but still hold to the time period, and the lineage of the truck without drastically changing it. Where, not that to say we don't want to upset anybody, but certainly you're not going to draw a mustache on the Mona Lisa, right? But every once in a while it needs to be touched up. So think it'll fit the truck appropriately, and will be something that's super clean and will be a nice add. Yeah.
That's going to be interesting to see. I can't wait to see that. Then again, I've also, Chris, I'm not going to take away from Jeff, but I've been watching you build that Cadillac grill too. Anyway, Jeff, I take that you don't always have get the pleasured comments about you buying that truck, or yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
Built, bought not built.
Yeah, I'm sure you get criticized a lot about that. The fact that you didn't build it and you didn't, you get criticized for a lot of. A lot of people do that buy something, but explain to me what your feeling is about people that criticize you about the fact that you buy something that you have a passion for and that you obviously fall in love with.
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, right? And it's funny because, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Chris and I were actually talking about this earlier today, and the concept. So bought not built. Hey, listen, I have the utmost respect for anybody who can take metal and make it into things. That is not a gift that I was given. You know, I'm not good at it. I never really I never really focused on that. I was more on the graphic side. Like I really like to design things, and I got into finance and into my businesses. But you know, that has been gratifying in a way where it allows me to go out and be able to now contribute to the industry in a way that I think is unique to me. In that I am a sucker for these little trucks and for the graphic work and the crazy custom mods. And you know, Chris and I joke, these are the worst possible. If you look at it as an investment, you might as well just set your money on the ground and light it on fire. But because it's just you're never going to get your money back out of these things. But if you have a passion for these, right? And I talk about going down the street and you know pulling up to you know set of lights and having a little kid in the car window next to you looking over, flipping out, just excited about what you got. And you know maybe the mom and dad look over and they give you the thumbs up. That's what it's about for me. And getting out, you know, in a parking lot, at a show or like at a mall or whatever, and you lay the truck on the ground. And if you can drive a truck like this, or one that you should drive out on the roads, get out of that vehicle, lay it on the ground. If you take 10 steps and you don't turn around to look at it, you don't need to own that car. Okay? So for me, it's just like anything else, right? Nobody goes to the Louvre and pisses on the Mona Lisa because they didn't paint it, right? It's a piece of art. It's something that should be cared for, right? And I think ODB from our lifestyle podcast really says it best. I'm an enthusiast, but I'm also a curator, right? Because I want to care for these things and make sure that they make it to the next, you know, generation. I want my son to take care of this truck when I die, and I want his kids to take care of this truck, right, into the future. All too many times we see people that will go out and they'll buy something that was a big build or things like that, and then we see the thing just get abused and passed around, and you know, and maybe they just don't have the resources, but all of a sudden the paint job changes. So for me, you know, to keep this thing true, you know, I'm not afraid. There's damage on the fender of this truck right now. Okay, so the previous owner drove it off the edge of a trailer. These are the types of things that happen when you show a vehicle nationally. Okay, I need to repair that, and so you know that's an $8,000 to $10,000 adventure. Okay, that I'll never see again. But all too happy to do it because when this gets shown nationally again, hopefully coming up in the spring, in the summer, I want for people to look at this thing and see that it's been well maintained and cared for, and that I'm not going to ever let it go to shit. Okay, so that built versus bought. And I know Chris has got his thoughts on it as well, and if you'd like to share some of yours.
Yeah. So for me, I am a builder. You know, I build custom cars. You know, as a career. And, you know, the built versus bought thing to me is a real rabbit hole because, you know, I have friends and or guys I know within the industry that will take bolt-on parts and put it onto a car. I also have friends that will take sheet metal and they will make a car from scratch. And to put those two guys in the same category as builders is not fair in my opinion. You know, one is bolting stuff on, one is making a car from scratch, right? The other side is you can go, all right, well, that guy made that car from scratch because he hand shaped the metal. But did he actually dig the metal out of the ground and flatten it out himself? Like, how far do you want to go with this, right? And for me, at the end of the day, yes, I build my own cars. I get in them with my family. I drive them. I enjoy them. I cruise to car shows with Jeff, and he's in this with his son. And when we pull up next to a stoplight and I look over at him, he looks over at me, without saying anything, we have the same thought. And this is awesome, and we're making memories. And that, to me, is what it's all about, is what you do with your time and your energy to create memories and to preserve these cars for the next generation. Whether you built them or bought them, to me, it really doesn't matter. It's what your end goal is.
Very well said, Chris. Very well said. Jeff, back on the Nissan 720, is that a permanent convertible?
It sure is.
So you can't drive that bad boy in the rain, then can you, Jeff?
Yeah, well, the reality is, so I've driven it out to some local shows this past year. I drove it out to a fair amount of local shows. And you can't not get in this and take it for a cruise every once in a while in the spring and summertime. When you come out to the garage and you see it sitting there, it speaks to you a little bit. But you also have to keep in mind that the undercarriage of this truck is painted, powder-coated, chrome. So you really can't drive it too much. But I make sure that when I go out with something, I'm looking ahead at the weather to make sure it's not going to be raining, because that would be a bad time.
Yeah, that would be a lot of detailed work to clean up for the next show. You'd be spending hours laying on your back on a creeper, rolling around underneath there with some Windex and.
If you can get under there.
Yeah. You can do your best, and so that's the nice part of the, if you're not getting out in the rain, you detail it really good, and then you just detail straight in between shows.
A hot rod shop commented that he has $60,000 in a '99 Ford Ranger, and the damn thing don't run. He said, "Bad investment right here."
Yeah, and the thing is, he probably still walks by that Ranger and smiles every time he sees it. So that's the important part.
So what makes it sometimes when you fall in love with a vehicle, and being a car guy myself, when you fall in love with a vehicle and you put so much time and money into it, the money don't even mean nothing anymore at that point. It gets to the point where someone comes, how much is it? If you really have a passion for that vehicle, you're gonna be like, it's not going anywhere, Bubba. Staying with me.
That's right. Yeah, they're gonna bury me in one of these things. That's for sure.
Can I go?
Yes. Okay.
So when did you purchase this truck?
This truck got up here the day before Thanksgiving last year. So this past Thanksgiving was 1 year anniversary for it being up here.
Yeah, I personally remember your truck with a previous owner when I was living in North Carolina a little over 10 years ago. So I know that truck's been around for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if it was North Carolina 10 years ago, but I think he had it from 2017, 2018 until he sold it to me. And then prior to that, it was out in California.
Oh, right. Wow. It made it out to the West Coast and then back to you?
Yeah, you're not going to get further. And my other truck, same thing. It's, these are Cali trucks, and then we bring them out to the opposite coast.
So that's had a little bit of hands, and quite a bit of people's had their hands in that truck then over time.
Yeah, the hands that have been on, and going back to build not bought or whatever. If you look at these things the way that I do, and I know Chris does as well. For me, it's the legacy of each of these vehicles. For me, is the story, right? For example, I know I posted these on social media, and we're sitting on them right now. These are actually the original seats that this truck was, built with, and they're all, airbrushed and painted just like the truck. And the deal I made when I got it with Josh Ellis, who was the gentleman in North Carolina who I bought it from, was you need to send those Barstool seats up with it. And he said, I know, I already understand you. I know that that's such a big deal. And, so to have the legacy component, is the most important thing to me about them. And like my other truck, we've got, I have all the magazines. I have the magazine cover plaques, and just all the little bits and pieces. To me, is part of the story. So that moving forward, when you're telling somebody about your truck or about your cars, this is the person who built it. This is why that's important. This truck, for example, I'm sure plenty of people that are watching this right now know who K Daddy and Kyle Dan is. So he was just inducted into the Mini Trucking Hall of Fame. And one of his first builds, which is a truck called Bad to the Bone, which is actually an extended cab 720 that ultimately did get destroyed, was inducted into the Mini Trucking Hall of Fame as well. So that dude is an OG. That guy, I would be excited every single time I would see something that he has his hands on in Mini Trucking Magazine. So Craig Frazier airbrushed about every inch of this truck, including underneath the hood. This thing is just a piece of art. So when we're discussing things like this, and and then for him to have sold it for Kyle Gang, sold it to Ryan Kirkland, who I worked at Cal Concepts as well. And Ryan actually had his hands and did a lot of the grunt work on Last Look, which is considered the sister truck to this truck, the Last Look being one of Fester's trucks that I will eventually own. And he did a lot of work on that. So K-Daddy sold Ryan this truck for what I understand to be a pretty good deal because Ryan did so much work on other things with him. From there, it kind of ran through a circle of friends out in California. It ended up with a gentleman by the name of Nino Brown, who did a bunch of work on it as well, and then ultimately made its way to Josh Ellis, who I would say is a very big mini trucking enthusiast, knows mini trucking history unlike anybody else.
I know Josh Ellis. I actually know him personally because, like I said, I used to live down there. I used to go to the shows, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, in the earlier days and everything. I remember that truck. I remember that truck a lot.
Yeah.
Seen it at a lot of major shows. I mean, and like Cal Concepts, like everything that they touch. Oh my God! Like you just said a while ago, it's like they could paint and airbrush a freaking Honda CRX, and it just came out so amazing.
Yeah, and they probably did. But to the point of lineage and history and legacy, we could build an amazing vehicle out here. We could have it painted locally. We've got some amazing airbrush artists out here and graphics guys out here. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who's going to be doing the work on this is friends with Craig Frazier, who did all the airbrush work on this. And Craig actually said, I trust this guy's got better skills than we did when we built this truck, so you don't have to really worry about that, which I was pretty excited about. So yeah.
Well, this has been a very interesting interview. For some reason I haven't been able to share it out to a lot of people, but we'll do that after the fact. Do you guys have any other things you could think of that you want to discuss about the truck?
Regarding the truck?
Huh?
Regarding the truck, most definitely. I'm looking forward, and I know Chris is going to do some. At some point, we'll bring Chris out to some shows as well. But for those of you, and I know Chris hops on some of your other videos and live streams that you guys do, but Chris just went, and I know he's a modest dude, and I'm gonna do this to him right now. He just went full time doing something he's amazing at. He now owns Ruined Rides Fabrication. Ruined Rides Fabrication. He's got my red Toyota right now. We're gonna do some work to that, and then we're gonna obviously get on this and get that grill done. But guys, check out his stuff on Instagram, Ruined Rides Fabrication. Follow his stuff. Check it out. I would say, hands down, probably one of the best builders I've ever seen. The stuff that he does is absolutely insane. So, excited that we're going to do some stuff. There's going to be some metal work being done in the bed of this truck. So some of the things that just weren't done back in the day, some mods, because back when this truck was built, 16-inch wheels were considered big wheels. So they never actually switched and did a fuel cell. So you have to try to snake your hand in between the wheel and the wheel well to fill this thing up with gas is not a good time. So we're gonna, make some of those things. And Chris may not know it yet, but he's gonna be a part of that process.
I'm yeah, I'm down for it.
All right, cool. So Yeah, man, Reggie, I appreciate you having us on, man. And I know you and I talked about doing this for a while. I also appreciate you having your guys come out and shoot this over the summer for the cover of the magazine.
Yes.
That came out really good.
You got a hot rod shop that was asking, can you move the camera and show it up close? But you can't do that. I don't think so with that using that laptop, right?
Yeah, I can't do that. But if you check out my Instagram at jgaudette77, you can see about 36 million pictures of every inch of this thing on there. So you can see that close.
All right, guys. It was really great having y'all. I really appreciate you coming on the first Meet the Builds. It was nice having you, Jeff. And Chris, of course. And if anybody's curious about this truck, check out his page. Hit his tag. Go look him up on Instagram. Pretty sure we can figure out some other things to add into the links later on.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, like I said, it's been a great time having you. I hope we answered anybody's questions about the truck, and I can't wait to looking forward to trying to meet the builds next week and the week after. See how it goes.
All right, well, I appreciate you having me on for the first one.
With my pleasure, my friend.
All right, guys. Take your time.
Bye bye.